Is there a way to get rid of fairy rings in our grass? And this is Art from Olive Branch, Mississippi. He says there is one under each of his oak trees, Celeste.
Okay.
Fairy rings. So what do you think about that?
Well, unfortunately, there is not going to be a magic solution, as in the most cases for things relating to plants, right? We've come to find that out. So there's not a product that he can, go out and spray and it's going to make these fairy rings go away. But I can describe the conditions that are favorable for fairy rings, and if we could change some of those conditions, then you would have a higher likeliness of moving away from them
I like it.
coming into being.
Okay.
So fairy rings, I say prefer. we're gonna see them most often in compacted soils, soils that aren't able to accept and retain moisture. Sometimes they're if we have heavy thatch layers, thatch is what's left over from the mowing of turf grasses, that can actually create like a hydrophobic layer. And so the water, whenever it rains or we have irrigation, is never actually getting down to that soil surface. So it's a combination of compacted soil areas and hydrophobic type films over those soils that aren't letting the moisture get down into the soil. So if we can do some aeration, do some things to help loosen that soil and create pockets for water to get down into the soil profile, then that is going to help with occurrences of fairy rings. But then you have to think about the root system of those oak trees, right? Are these mature, old growth oak trees that are providing a large amount of shade? Their root systems are going beyond their drip line, right? The drip line of their canopies. We have to be careful when we're doing any kind of disturbances in the root zones of trees. There's like a rule of thumb, I think, is it like you don't want to disturb more than like a third of the root zone of a mature tree when we're doing any kind of renovations like this. So you may not be able to do the whole area in 1 year, right? So aeration is like cores that are essentially poking down into the soil and pulling those cores of the soil out, allowing them to lay on the surface of the soil, mix with that thatch and break down. And so we've got these pockets for air and water to go down into. So that's helping loosen that soil, helping water and air get down in there, but could also be causing damage to that root zone. So you may not be able to do the entire area in 1 year. I mean, I know that you are high on tree health and care. Or would that be a good recommendation?
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. Because I have treated fairy rings that where it was compacted. Trees were there in the past, which is why there's probably organic matter under the ground. That was why they were getting fairy, but it was compacted. So we, aerated it, just like you said. Fertilize it. That's another thing you could do to fertilize it, try to get everything to be green around it, and it kind of disguises the fairy ring, but the mushrooms are still going to be there, and trying to get rid of all of that and getting it.
Let's stay there for a second. So what causes the mushrooms itself? What causes fairy rings?
It's organic matter in the soil.
Okay.
And it could be an old root, and if you've got lots of roots, you're good. Think in the forest. Where are you going to find mushrooms? They're in the forest, where the root system is for the trees.
Right.
Good and bad.
And fairy rings can display themselves in like 3 different forms. So it might be circles of mushrooms, right? So we are seeing that fruiting body, right, happening above the soil surface. It could display itself as just a ring of grass or vegetation that grows more vigorously than all the other vegetation around it.
Right.
On the flip side, it could be like a dead ring where everything else appears to be growing normally, and this one ring is showing no growth or reduced growth. So it can show its face in a few different ways.
I think that's pretty interesting. So recently I heard, of course, Dr. Bowling, Becky Bowling's a turf grass specialist, talk about fairy wings. So to your point, type 1, type 2, type 3, right? So type 1 you usually see on golf courses. Type 2, you see the lush green growth, you know, in your lawns. Type 3 fairy rings you actually see in the fall after rain. So how about that? So
Yeah.
type 1, type 2, type 3.
But all of it
Fairy
has
rings.
to do with compacted soil.
Compacted soils,
So,
just like y'all talked about.
it-
So it's pretty much a cosmetic issue, you know, at the end of
True.
the day. So you just kind of let it be, enjoy it. You know, if you listen to, you know, or read, you know, medieval folklore, right? They pop up after the fairies dance in that area. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah.
So get out there with your kids and
Get out there with your
have
kids.
good fun.
Yeah,
Make
so-
up a fairy tale.
There you have it, Art.
There you
See,
go.
that's what happens when you read some of your kids' stories. How about that? You learn something.